In this video I invite you to see just how beautiful a year on the canals can be. We'll start with the wonders of autumn, see some epic winter scenery, and then head through spring and summer when people from around the globe flock to the canal network. Autumn on the canal is probably the most scenic overall season. The snow-covered world of winter is hard to beat, yet snow is so rare and sometimes doesn't arrive at all during the year, whereas the magical autumnal colours of the changing trees lasts for months and gives you a variety of hues as they change from a vibrant lively green all the way to an earthy dried up brown before they fall off and slowly vanish into the ground. For me, it is not just the colours present in the trees that makes it such a beautiful season, but the combined effect of the days drawing in to give early evening sunsets with the long shadows and classic sunset golden light, and also the fact there are often chilly days that give you a clear blue sky above and an uninterrupted sunset free of clouds. Of course, there are plenty of cloudy, chilly days too, so cross your fingers and hope for the best. As beautiful as the changing trees are, it is amazing how many leaves will soon wrap themselves around your propeller and rob you of forward momentum. This is easily cured with a quick blast of reverse, which should lead to a cloud of turbulent leaves coming from the back of your boat in the water. Often though, you will be able to hear a holiday boat coming from a good distance away, as without being told about this simple trick, they will charge ahead for miles, adding more and more revs to make up for the mysterious lack of pace. Just another reason to take special care if you are considering buying a former holiday boat. During this time of year, the holiday boats do start to make fewer and fewer trips out onto the canal. On a busy canal like the Llangollen, this is especially noticeable. As the hire boats and traffic recedes, the private boats and liveaboards may come out in greater numbers, keen to enjoy the surroundings with a calmer canal to explore. I bought and moved onto my first boat during the height of summer, so I didn't fully realise just how busy the canal was at that time because I had nothing to compare it with. I can still remember being on my boat in the Chirk area as autumn rolled in for the first time, and I noticed how quiet it was. Then cycling to work early one morning, I noticed that there were probably not even a quarter of the boats that there had been when I'd first passed through in those busy summer times and struggled to moor at all in the popular places. It was also likely the unexpected chilly nights that are sprinkled amongst the autumn days that first led me to be stoking the fire in the small hours of the morning, desperately trying to get some heat in the boat to make up for being caught off guard by a deceptively clear and sunny day. A boat trip beneath the golden trees, with a backdrop of a blue sky and the feeling of a slight chill in the air, can be just about the perfect activity to be involved in, especially if it leads to a calm rural mooring place, lighting the fire and preparing some beans on toast ahead of another quiet night on the canal. The experience of living on a narrowboat can often be defined by the weather. If you are like me and choose to spend your time moored up in rural places, often hard to access compared to a freshly paved marina, then the weather can play an amplified role in how you feel about life. If you have watched my videos over time, then you may know that the weather and seasons are far from predictable and guaranteed. This can certainly create some better and worse moments of boat life as the years pass by. For example, when I bought my second boat, I was lucky enough to do so before a stunning heatwave that elongated a beautiful summer to welcome me back to the water. However, my final experience on my first boat was a historically wet winter where it rained at some point on every single day for months on end. In hindsight, I am amazed that I managed to stay on board for so long during that soul-sapping period. Regardless of the reality, you can of course assume certain trends when living close to nature as the seasons pass. The spring should bring warmer and brighter weather, the summer some nice long dry periods. The autumn can often become a very bleak and wet time of the year before winter draws the daylight hours painfully short and rarely passes without one or two unexpected soak-ins while you're out walking the towpath. The biggest misconception about all of the seasons is definitely the romantic narrowboat winter vision of snow-covered boats and vistas that look like they're from a Christmas card. One of my most viewed videos is of a fantastic snowy winter day. People absolutely love these moments, and that's why they get a disproportionate amount of playtime from the YouTube algorithm. Let me tell you what I think the real joy of winter is. The calm, almost abandoned feeling that a rural stretch of canal can gain at a time when people don't want to be out and about in the harsher elements. This isolating sense of being the only person left on Earth can be boosted to a new level if there are winter stoppages on your canal. The quieter months of the year are often used as a chance for maintenance work to be carried out, meaning that sometimes the canal will be drained or otherwise impassable. This has led me to experience moments where I haven't seen a single other boat moving on the canal for months at a time. It doesn't get much calmer than that. Similarly, the shorter, colder and wetter days will massively reduce the foot traffic on the towpath. This has two results. Firstly, you can moor in a rural place and sometimes see nobody at all in a day. Secondly, you can moor up closer to more popular places and not be swarmed by people out on day trips or holidays or just generally wandering around. I have had a lot of great interactions with holiday makers from all over the world on the canals, but I have found at some points during the summer the foot traffic can be exceptionally high and sometimes a little alarming, but we'll talk about more on that in the future. Of course, the trade-offs to what I enjoy about the winter time are the same things that make a lot of people detest it. Rain, damp, mud, often both outside and inside the boat. I will not pretend that drying my clothes above the fireplace for the 10th day in a row, seeing the windows steaming up more by the hour, is a great experience, but it is something I can put up with in return for the things that I enjoy. Not everybody would feel the same, and that is absolutely fine. Everything about winter on a boat comes together to form an absolute nightmare experience for some people. Cold, desolate, bleak, isolated conditions for months on end, and with the daylight often fading by 4 p.m, I can see why I am probably the weird one on being so enthusiastic about the winter time. I have always been a bit of a loner though, which is one of the many reasons that it's so surprising I have a girlfriend. Anyway, let's take a moment to recap. Winter can be beautiful, a snow or frost-covered wonderland, but of course that can make it a lot harder to live in a simpler and closer to nature kind of way. The long dark nights can add a hint of isolation to life, which can either make or break your views on boat life overall. Most of all though, the utter calm and silence of a remote mooring and a frosty night can create the most homely place on earth as you shovel a little more coal onto the fire. As winter fades away from the world and nature starts to reawaken, a period of broad changes begins for the canals as well. In some cases, the last of the boats frozen in solid will be set free by milder temperatures. In other cases, muddy towpaths saturated by a long wet season will show signs of becoming passable without the need for a funny, rapid and light-footed walk. This season contains one of the big moments for the canal holiday and domestic tourism industry, Easter. Outside of the summer holidays, Easter is the busiest I have ever seen the canals. It is truly a reminder of just how busy the canals can be, especially a popular holiday canal like the Llangollen. Easter seems to be the first big event that different groups gather together for. Families on canal boats, walking groups on the towpaths, runners, cyclists, and just people who enjoy wonderful scenery. A place such as the Trevor Basin can often dance along the boundary between being simply lively and being outright chaotic. Long ago in my early phase of boat life, I made the mistake of inviting my grandparents on board for a trip across the Pontcysyllu Aqueduct, intending to immediately turn around 180 degrees in the Trevor Basin and then cross back over the valley to drop them off at the same place we set out from. A simple plan. Once we had set out, we soon found ourselves in a dense procession of boats, resembling the carriages of a train rather than a canal. When we finally arrived at the aqueduct, there was so much confusion and difficulty with inexperienced boaters trying to navigate the Trevor Basin on the far side that we found ourselves repeatedly at a complete standstill on top of the world's highest aqueduct, famous for its lack of railings on the waterside. Needless to say, I was pleased to finally get back and tie the ropes up for the night. It was a lesson well learned about planning my cruising a little more wisely. Another telltale sign of spring's arrival is the flowering of daffodils, often found on grass verges, towpaths, canal banks, gardens, roadsides, and pretty much anywhere else where there is a patch of grass and the passage of time. Prior to the rise of the daffodils, snowdrops briefly reign supreme over the landscape. As beautiful and delicate as these short white flowers are, the burst of colour that the daffodils bring to the canal side is tough to beat. There is something pleasant about seeing the canals come into life in all these aspects. The greenery and flowering of nature, the return of human beings to the canal as well as the boats to the towpath. Even the lengthening, warmer days bring with them an intangible, pleasant feeling. And not to be too romantic in the way I word this, but also an air of positivity, optimism and enthusiasm to the entire idea of the narrowboat lifestyle. I could talk at length about the often incredible natural world surrounding a lot of canals during summertime, as long hot summer days drag into late evening sunsets over a countryside full of life. But I won't. Summer on the canal is actually quite different to most of the year afloat because of one factor: people. On a popular holiday canal like the Llangollen, it is ironic that the very fact so many people come out and experience the canals in the summer means they are not getting the more usual canal experience of the quieter majority of the year. In fact, often it can be the exact opposite. For example, I have passed through the New Marton locks dozens upon dozens of times, very often without a single other boat in sight, but the first and last time that I went through them in the peak of a summer holiday week, well, the process took hours and I was stuck in a double-digit queue of boats travelling in both directions. But this may surprise you, I actually like to see the canal so full of life. Of course you get some idiots mingled in with the crowds, but unfortunately that's just a part of all of life. The majority of people are just out there having a lovely time, and I take great enjoyment out of seeing them in turn enjoy the places that I've been living and talking about and showing on camera for years. It is almost reassuring to know that other people can see the value and peace and serenity of these environments, even when surrounded by more traffic than usual. The canals really do come to life in every sense during the peak weeks of summer, all of the classic natural world and farmland features strike up. Birds kicking off at ridiculously early sunrise times in the morning, the flowers coming out, mingled in with a few weeds and brambles, of course. And then add into that all of the human groups too, from boaters, cyclists, joggers, huge walking parties, photographers, and maybe even some insufferable YouTubers like myself. There is a genuine sense of busyness around some of the hub areas of the Llangollen Canal, such as Ellesmere, Chirk, Whitchurch, and of course Llangollen itself up at the top end. This often goes hand in hand with canalside festivals, open days, and just generally pleasant, warm-feeling community events. On one such occasion at Ellesmere, for reasons I don't fully understand, my mum collected me from my own boat in the marina, took me around the corner to the basin and insisted that I join her on a free boat ride around Ellesmere. The actual living on a boat experience has a few curiosities during this time of the year, outside of the much busier environment. For example, a very hot day when living in a steel tube can be a very hot day. Hearing the wooden finishings on my boat creaking and cracking as they expand under the heat can sometimes be a little bit alarming. In the times before I had a car, I would cycle to and from work, so sometimes I'd be cycling home under a beating midsummer's sun, feeling as hot and bothered as I thought a human could possibly feel, only to open the boat door to be hit by an even warmer wall of air, as the boat had sat like a greenhouse in the sun all day. Yeah, fun times. But you know what? With its amazing scenery, upbeat feeling, sometimes chaotic crowds, and often at least one hire-boat crash or scrape along the side of your boat, summer is a time that just feels good to be on the water, and just another part of the changing nature of narrowboat life throughout the year that makes it such an appealing and wonderful experience. I hope you've enjoyed this short essay. Please consider subscribing and checking out my books about canal boat life, available as a paperback and for the Kindle. If you really want to help me out and see more of this sort of stuff, then please consider checking out my Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member, where I'll post a few little bonus videos and things along the way. And well, until the next time, my friends, thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Keep it interesting. Keep it boat worthy. And of course, my friends, farewell.